I've read a lot about it.
Last like I told Tony, we're starting to go vacation to Florida.
Road call. No speaker requests.
No, sir, we can't do it yet.
You know, between what, private thing.
Yeah.
So somewhere.
It's wrong. Thank you.
Not listed on the agenda.
Just like France.
He's the only other one. Then I can say, if anyone else was leaving here. I call to order the agenda for the regular meeting of the DeKalb City Council, May 22, 2017. I'd ask the city clerk to call the roll of the city council, please.
Jacobson?
Here.
Fanouken?
Here.
Marquardt?
Here.
Fagan?
Here.
Noreko?
Here.
Verbic?
Here.
Favor?
Here?
Smith?
Here.
8 present.
Police Officer Kelly Sullivan will come forward to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Kelly. Are there any additions or deletions to the agenda before we approve tonight's agenda? If not, I'd ask for a motion to approve tonight's agenda.
So moved.
Second. Been moved by Jacobson, seconded by Mr. Fanouken, that we approve the agenda. Roll call, please.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Fanouken?
Yes.
Marquardt?
Yes.
Fagan?
Yes.
Noreko?
Yes.
Verbic?
Yes.
Favor?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
8 yes.
There are no public hearings scheduled for this meeting. We have several special items. Proudly DeKalb, FY 2016 Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award. Kathy Haley will come to the podium to speak on this item. Finance Director Kathy Haley.
Thank you, Mayor. On April 25th, the city received notification from the Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada, or as we all know it, GFOA, that the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report for the fiscal year ended June 30th, 2016, qualified for a Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. This is the 23rd year in a row the city has received this award. This certificate of achievement is the highest form of recognition in governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. The GFOA established this program in 1945 to encourage and assist state and local governments to go beyond the minimum requirements of generally accepted accounting principles to prepare comprehensive annual financial reports that evidence the spirit of transparency and full disclosure, and then to recognize these individual governments that succeed in achieving that goal. The goal of the program is not to assess the financial health of the participating governments, but rather to ensure that users of their financial statements have the information they need to do so themselves. I would like to give a special thank you to Assistant Finance Director Robert Miller and Accountant Susan Hauman for their hard work and effort during the audit process in order to achieve this award. And finally, it is my pleasure to present this award, the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, to the City of DeKalb, Illinois, for its comprehensive annual financial report for fiscal year ended June 30th, 2016.
You hold that, and I'll do it. Thank you, Jeff. Thank you, Kathy.
Mr. Mayor, while Kathy is still up here, on behalf of council, I'd like to thank her for her efforts for the city of DeKalb over the last few years.
Thank you very much. It's been a pleasure these last 3 years, and they've gone very fast, so thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bill.
Okay, we have a proclamation. First of all, National Emergency Medical Services Week, May 21 through 27, 2017. Our Fire Chief, Eric Hicks. Eric?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I brought some gentlemen from Fire Station Number 1 here tonight to accept this proclamation, if I can get them to walk up front. We have Lieutenant Keith Fritz, Captain Todd Stofa, Battalion Chief Jeff Josendahl, Firefighter Chris Krupa, Firefighter Vincent Lacinia. Last year, our department ran over 4,150 calls. That was just for EMS calls. That was about 74% of our business. We operate one of the most up-to-date EMS services in the area with some of the best technology available, thanks to you guys. So bring these gentlemen up here if they accept the proclamation.
Thank you. Come on up. Firefighter Fritz, right, is going to accept this? Lieutenant Fritz. I beg your pardon? Lieutenant Fritz. Lieutenant Fritz. There you go. Where's Jeff? You going to take a picture? Here, Jeff. Come on up, guys. Get in this picture.
Smile nice.
Lieutenant, thank you very much. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks for your hard work. Thank you for your hard work. On your word.
As always. How you doing? What's going on? As always.
Okay, on we go. Another proclamation. This is Public Works Week, May 21 through 27, 2017. Tim Holdeman, our Public Works Director, will come forward to make that presentation, or to at least talk about the presentation.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of council and residents of the city of DeKalb. It's my honor to receive this proclamation this evening on behalf of the DeKalb Public Works Department. Since I've been here for the last 18 months, it's been my privilege to serve alongside of the 55 full and part-time employees from the Public Works Department. We have a few representative employees here today. They happen to be the most junior employees of the Public Works Department that I'd like to introduce to you. Paul Zinkel is a mechanic from the Support Services Division. He is responsible for the heavy equipment, the snow and ice removal equipment. He comes in when snow and ice's operations are going to keep that fleet running. And also Public Works Management Analyst Patrick DiDiani. You've seen Patrick before. You know how he's hit the ground running in the Public Works Department and carrying a significant load for us. Also, I would also point out Street Superintendent Mark Espy is here with us this evening. I want to say that these Public Works employees are dedicated individuals, dedicated to serving our community. And we can be very proud of these city employees. I know that the next time that the citizens of DeKalb need their services, that they'll be on call and ready to serve. Thank you, Mayor.
And Tim, you say they're juniors. They sure look young to me, but at my age, everybody looks young to me. So come on up and get this proclamation, would you? Nice to meet you again. Okay, we're going to have another picture here. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for keeping everything running.
Right. I mean, all of it, whatever.
It's such an honor to take part in those proclamations. Thank you very much. We do have a special presentation tonight, Safe Passage FY 2017 Human Services Funding Annual Report, Executive Director Mary Ellen Scheid. From Safe Passage, the Executive Director, Mary Ellen Scheid.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, City Council. It's very nice to be here. First of all, let me say thank you for the funding that we do receive from the City of DeKalb. Every single penny we get from anywhere is really important to the work we do. Probably most of you are familiar with Safe Passage, but we are the Domestic Violence Service Agency and the Sexual Assault Service Agency for all of DeKalb County. The majority of the people we serve are from the City of DeKalb, as it's the largest. We still operate a 25-bed emergency shelter, and that is for women and children. We are going to be expanding some of the space in our on our campus to now be able to provide shelter, emergency shelter for men. Male victims, there's a huge stigma about that and not a lot of recognition about, I'm not saying there's a huge number, but there are male victims, and we are going to be able to serve them starting July 1st. So I'm very happy about that. Our shelter is 25 beds. We also provide transitional housing, which is another program that we are now currently being able to expand. And I don't know if people realize we do transitional housing, but that's long-term housing up to 2 years where victims and their children can live in an apartment and receive supports so they can go to school, so they can work and get child care, and they can live there for up to 2 years. We don't charge for that, and we were able to get some federal funding this year to be able to expand that program. Our goal for all of the people we serve at Safe Passage is for them to become independent, self-sufficient. We call them survivors, but we definitely want them to thrive. And having a job that pays you enough to be able to support yourself and your children is key to that. Having safe housing is key to that. So we're very, very happy about the transitional housing program. It's really probably our most impactful program. It really does make a difference in the lives of the people we serve here. The other thing that's new this year is, along with Chief Lowry, we received some funding. We're going to have some people from Maryland come out and trainers in our agency, so the people that answer our hotline, as well as the first responders from the police department in both DeKalb and the sheriff's department here in the county. to learn how to implement and use what's called the lethality assessment project. And that is an assessment that first responders can use when they go out to a domestic violence situation. And it's a very simple tool, but it's asking the victim 11 questions and being able to determine from their answers to those questions if it's a potentially lethal situation. Fortunately, we haven't had too many, but we've had a few, and a few is too many, murders related to domestic violence in our county. And so the lethality assessment project is going to hopefully prevent that and also identify people that are in lethal situations and help them, get them to victim services, because a lot of times police go out, they give a brochure to the people, but then the victims never call. And nationwide, statistics show that of all the people that have been killed in domestic violence situations, only 4% have had connection with domestic violence service providers. So it's a great opportunity that we're going to have here in DeKalb County to be able to offer that assessment and hopefully identify more victims who are in really, really desperate situations and help them get service and hopefully move on to the independence that they need. As you all know, we are now in our, I can't even count, I don't even know anymore, it seems like forever, that we've been dealing with the state budget crisis, and our funding has been severely compromised. Fortunately, we have a generous mental health board here in DeKalb County that has helped us out in a jam, and some very generous funders, but we can't really raise enough money to make up for the state money that we're supposed to be getting. So we continue to increase our fundraising efforts and do everything we can. So I thank you for the funding that we get from the city, and I hope you will remember that we have a new video that we just had made. We received funding from the Community Foundation of DeKalb County, and the video, I'm hoping, will help not only our fundraising efforts, but it will help us to let everybody know what victims actually go through. It's a very powerful video, and we're having a video launch party on June 29th, and I have invitations here for all of you, and I hope you will join us at the Park District, and that it's a very powerful video, and will give everybody an honest picture of the kind of challenges that the people we work with face. Again, our goal is always to turn victims into survivors and ultimately into thriving and having thriving lives. So thank you again for your support, and let me just pass out.
Okay.
Or do you have any questions?
Yeah, Mary Ellen, how long is that video?
It is 7 minutes.
See, it just lends itself perfectly to your organization to get out and about in the community to various organizations to show that. I'm sure that
Absolutely.
there are some other comments or questions. Yes. Ms. Noriko.
Mary Ellen, I wanted to personally thank you and Safe Passage for your work. Knowing an individual who was in a very serious situation and was absolutely helped immeasurably by your work, by your counselors. Again, I want to say thank you on her behalf.
Well, thank you so much. I'm glad to hear that we were helpful.
Any other questions or comments of Mary Ellen of Safe Passage? And you've got an invitation
I do.
to us?
Is that okay if I
You-
pass this out?
Come on up. Start over there with Mr. Jacobson. His back is hurting tonight, so he's not going to reach forward
you.
too much.
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Thank you very much. And Mr. Mark?
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Mr. Fagan,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Thank you, Mary Ellen.
Mayor Smith,
Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you.
And
Again, thank you, Mary Ellen.
thank you so much. Mr. Verbeck. Nice meeting you. Thank you so much. I hope you can all make it.
For those of you with an agenda in your hands, you'll see that as a template item on our agenda each and every city council meeting, we have approval of the mayor's appointments. We have none tonight, but I would like to give you a report in terms of the new mayor's progress in this regard. I've met now, I believe, with about 5 of the 14 commissions and boards. My intent is to not only see the lay of the land and get the lay of the land with those boards and commissions, but to look at some potential, or look at some vacancies, if there are any, to really get a handle on the present members of those boards and commissions to see, not only what they've been doing, but what they see going forward. So in the future, believe me, there will be some mayoral appointments. Okay, now we move into the public participation portion of our agenda, and I understand that Dwayne Brown has registered to speak on an item not listed on tonight's agenda. Dwayne?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. And now I can call you Mayor, as I said before, not Jerry. DeKalb needs manufacturing. We have shuttered plants, including the Caterpillar, General Electric, Spalding Fiber, and 3M Warehouse. We need manufacturing to return. Some of the problems manufacturers face is the inhospitable business climate in Illinois. Illinois has one of the highest property taxes in the country, the 4th highest corporate tax in the industrialized world, the 4th highest workman's compensation in the nation, high unemployment insurance costs. Illinois is a non-right-to-work state. All the surrounding states have right-to-work laws. In the last 4.5 years, Illinois has lost 10,000 manufacturing jobs. During that same period, Michigan has gained 59,800, Indiana 56,000, Ohio 40,000, Wisconsin 17,100, Missouri 8,900, and Iowa 3,600. All the states that surround Illinois are up while we continue to endure an erosion of our economic base. People who need and want good jobs can't get them because of our failing state government that can find hundreds of ways to spend money but lacks the revenue to support it. Why has the legislature gone almost 2 years without passing a budget? We are overspending, have unpaid bills, underfunded pensions, irresponsible spending, vendors shortchanged, education cutbacks, service organization cuts, and a lack of leadership, and the General Assembly tolerates this. We are effectively bankrupt. We are sinking into financial oblivion. No wonder we are last in job growth and first in manufacturing losses for 2016 in the Midwest. Illinois is one of the least free states in the nation when it comes to regulatory burdens. We rank 42nd according to Mercanto Center's Freedom in 50 States Index. Illinois has been on the wrong path for years, and time is running short to save the state. Our legislators need to enact structural reforms so more jobs will be created. Illinois should be the poster child for dysfunctional government. I have a question for my fellow citizens. Are you proud to be a resident of Illinois? I'm not. The Ringling Brothers Barnum and Bailey Circus ended as of yesterday in New York after 146 years. But we don't have to worry. We have Michael Madigan, John Cullerton, Bruce Rauner, and the General Assembly to keep us entertained in the three-ring circus in Springfield. Thank you.
Thank you, Dwayne. Dwayne was the only one registered to speak to an item not on the agenda. Are there any other individuals wishing to speak on an item not on the agenda? Steve Capitan.
Yes, Steve Capitan, 3rd Ward. I wasn't planning on making any remarks regarding the Safe Passage presentation, but I think it's important to mention something that Mary Ellen, was it?
Yes.
that didn't mention, and that is that they do have active fundraising in the community. And I participated in the Walk a Mile in Her Shoes last month, and I would encourage, they had their second annual last year, I would encourage the council and everyone in the community to participate in those events in the future. But with regard to why I wanted to speak, the DeKalb Interfaith Network for Peace and Justice is for the 6th or 7th year now carrying the photos of the fallen heroes from Illinois in Iraq, from Iraq and Afghanistan. And I would welcome anybody from the council, the mayor, and anybody from the council, anybody from the community that would like to participate in carrying those photos. They would be welcome. We assemble at 8:30 a.m. on next Monday for the parade at the corner of 3rd and Oak, the library parking lot. Can I submit a request for an agenda item 2?
Yes, to the clerk.
Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Steve. Are there any other individuals wishing to speak on an item not on our agenda? If not, we'll move to the consent agenda. For those of you who are veterans of city council meetings, pardon the primer that I provide on the agenda, but it is self-educational for me and perhaps for those who are either watching or in the audience tonight. So let me just say that all items listed on our consent agenda are enacted in one motion. There is not separate discussion on these items unless requested by a council member, in which event the item will be removed from the consent agenda and put on the regular agenda. And prior to a vote on the consent agenda, which we will do in just a moment, members of the public may request that an alderman have an item removed from the consent agenda. And I don't know if that's been done or not, but we'll find out. So each of the following items I'm going to read in their entirety. These are items on the consent agenda. Approval of city council minutes, minutes of the committee of the whole meeting of April 24, 2017, minutes of the regular city council meeting of April 24, 2017. Receive and file. Accounts payable and payroll through May 22, 2017 in the amount of $2,638,175.68. Item 3, Resolution 2017-068, designating Human Resources Director Chris Randall as the authorized agent of the City of DeKalb for the Illinois Municipal Retirement Fund Program. And item number 4, Resolution 2017-069, authorizing an amendment to the agreement with Northern Illinois University Center for Governmental Studies, extending the contract term there at no cost. I'd ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Been moved by Alderman Favor.
Second.
Second by Mr. Fanouken. City Clerk, if you'd make a roll call, please.
Fanouken?
Yes.
Markwart?
Yes.
Fagan?
Yes.
Noriko?
Yes.
Verbic?
Yes.
Favor?
Yes.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carried. Now I'd like a motion to approve the listings on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Verbic,
Second.
second by Mr. Fagan. Please read the roll call, please.
Markwart?
Yes.
Fagan?
Yes.
Noriko?
Yes.
Verbic?
Yes.
Favor?
Yes.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Fanouken?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
8 yes.
Thank you. Now we move on items for separate action. Our first item tonight Ordinance 2017-027, authorizing an intergovernmental cooperation agreement with Kishwaukee Water Reclamation District, rescinding ordinance 2006-074, approving rezonings to the planned development residential, and approving the final plat of DeKalb Sanitary District Planned Development Subdivision, which includes the vacation of Hollister Avenue for the property located at 303 Hollister Avenue, the Kishwaukee Water Reclamation District. And we would like now to ask for a motion to open this item up for discussion.
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Noriko,
Second?
second by Mr. Favor. Community Development Director Joe Ellen Charlton will make some comments on this item.
Thank you, Mayor and members of the council. As you mentioned, the Kishwaukee Water Reclamation District, some of you may not know that it is the new name for the former DeKalb Sanitary District. That's a mouthful, so throughout this report, I'll probably refer to them as the district. The city has been working with the district over many years, I guess, as we've heard from the district and looking at past discussion items between the district and the city. Given that, the city, myself and Dan Olson, our principal planner, have been working with the district since about last August or September. We've worked with them as they have finalized plans for this project. Starting in December, they presented a concept plan to the Planning and Zoning Commission for an informal review and kind of an overview of the project. Following the completion of their submittals, they had 2 public hearings in March, after which the Planning and Zoning Commission rendered their recommendation for this project. Just to give you a brief overview of what this project entails, the facility is currently operated at its location on Hollister Avenue, 303 Hollister, on about 34 acres of property. The Unified Development Ordinance allows a sewage treatment facility as a special use in the SFR2 district, which this property is zoned. However, given the age of the facility and probably that our zoning code was adopted later, we don't have any record of a special use being granted. So that puts this property into what's known as a legal nonconforming status. They can continue to do that, but once they need to expand, then we need to go through a process to either grant a special use and do the expansion, or in this case, it made a little bit more sense to go to a planned development type of a zoning, given the unique nature of this type of a use and some of the flexibility that they needed to have access to as part of that planned development process. Over the last several years, the district has acquired all of the single-family properties along Hollister Avenue. A residential property along Sycamore Road near their south entrance, and some property at the north side of the project. I do want to point out that the view that you're looking at on the screen is turned sideways, so north is kind of to your left, with Sycamore Road running at the top angle of the property. So Hollister Avenue is the dark gray road coming into the facility from the top and then down into the existing facility. As part of that acquisition of those properties, they added nearly 18 acres to their existing 34-acre holding, providing them with 52 acres for their project. The new design includes the relocation of the primary clarifiers, which are the part that smells the worst, to the top of the hill, and the intent was to use gravity as part of their new design to allow it to be a more efficient facility. The design also contemplates the city's vacation of Hollister Avenue. You can see on the graphic that the gray line shows the location of the new road, which will be a private road coming into the facility. Let me make sure I have that right. The existing road is shown a little bit above where that gray road is. So that's the area that will be vacated by the city as part of the plat that's being approved. Some of the other things I wanted to go over with the project is the comprehensive plan, The city's comprehensive plan contemplates or shows 4 different types of land use categories on this property. As you might suspect, the existing facility itself shows up as a transportation and utility classification in our comprehensive plan. However, if you look at the plan for the existing residential along Hollister, that shows up as single-family residential. Also, we have areas in the plan that show parks and recreation to reflect its proximity and former planned uses for expansion of the parks and recreation facility. And we also have at the far northwest corner of the property a high-density residential development that was approved as a planned development several years ago, but then was never constructed as a result of hitting some bad economy. There are a few new buildings being constructed on the property. One of them will be the new administrative headquarters for the facility that will be located at the entrance of the new, off of the new Sycamore Road entrance on what we call the public aspect. So when you come into the private drive, you'll have an opportunity to hit a public parking lot to provide parking spaces to the public part of that building. And if you continue on that drive, you'll hit the gated facility. So that from that point on into the property, it will be for private access for use by district personnel. That will also provide an opportunity for them to access a parking lot on the northwest side of the building that will be for their employees and other district personnel. As part of this process, the Planning and Zoning Commission reviewed and analyzed parking information in compliance with our UDO. And for the most part, we just looked at the new administrative building and the breakdown of square footages. The code doesn't really provide a specific parking requirement for a sanitary district facility, so we looked at the closest type of use that would be measurable. And we decided that the formula of 1 space per employee on the maximum shift plus 1 space for every vehicle customarily used in the operation. So we looked at the total numbers of employees and the distribution of whether it was on the public side or the private side, and determined that the parking spaces that they're providing in those 2 lots are adequate to serve the requirement. One of the other things the Planning and Zoning Commission took a significant look at, and that the district was very proactive in their initial planning to put together, was what type of screening. They're very aware of the fact that they're a sanitary district and they have adjacency next to residential uses. So they embarked on many conversations with those neighbors early in the process to determine what type of screening was important to those neighbors. And then as they began to acquire some of the residential properties along Hollister, who had some mature evergreen landscaping and other materials that they could use, they were able to secure a tree spade and to relocate some of those mature trees to some of the areas that would make for some better or more effective screening to the residential neighbors. In particular, the new access road coming in from Sycamore is closer to the rear lots of the residential lots that are on Kirpin Court. So we did have a few people that expressed concern about that in terms of the location of that driveway and the noise and the lights. But the district came back and noted that they were providing the additional screening and that the amount of traffic on that road would be significantly less than it would be for the residential traffic the area currently experiences on Hollister Avenue. Also spent quite a bit of time discussing odor management. The district has been very successful in not having a lot of odor complaints on the property over the years. And we did verify this with a few of the property owners, the Park District. And one of the new things that we were concerned about was moving the location of those primary clarifiers closer to the residents to the north. And then we have a couple of businesses in that location as well. The district is confident at this point that they can continue to manage the odors by using the chemical processes which have been so successful for them in the past. So they hope to continue that. But one of the things that we wanted to make sure in the agreement, which you're going to be voting on tonight, was that if those measures don't prove successful, that we have other alternatives. And all of those alternatives are outlined in the memo, or in the agreement, including the fact that the new facilities are being constructed now so that they could later be retrofitted with covers and other measures if the chemical treatments or whatever other technology might come out in the next few years that would better address odors. One of the other things I want to mention is that at the northwest corner of the property, the Park District currently leases from the Sanitary District a portion of the property that the Sanitary District owns. And there have been discussions between those two entities about the possibility of using fill generated from the construction on the Sanitary District's property, depositing it on the property that the Park District currently leases. There may be a continuation of the lease or a sale, we're not real sure yet. But the intent would be to utilize that material to put on that property and create a sled hill. Those details of those plans have not yet been finalized. So at the current time, the plans show them trucking off this material from the site. But we've made some provisions, and there's an understanding that if at such time the Park District comes in and files the necessary paperwork and gets the approvals that they need to construct a sled hill on that property, we would be able at the staff level to approve that change to the agreement and allow them to put that material on the sled hill site. As I mentioned earlier, the plat of subdivision is being created for this property. So we've got all these residential homes on Hollister Avenue. All of those are going to be consolidated into one lot, and Hollister Avenue needs to be officially vacated. So a vacation is the city's agreement to give that property back to the owners on both sides of the right-of-way. So we're doing that at no charge to the district. And most of the property is being consolidated into one lot. Lot 1 will represent all of the property used and managed by the district for Sanitary District purposes. Lot 2 is a lot that it has frontage on Sycamore at the south entrance to the facility. And that site currently has a single-family home located on that lot and 2 accessory structures. So the intent through the agreement is to allow them to continue to utilize that lot that fronts on Sycamore as a single-family unit with 1 unit and their 2 existing accessory structures. Lot 3 is a lot that we kind of worked with them to carve out as the lot that would become the sled hill. So that carving that out as Lot 3 now makes it easier if they choose in the future to transfer that property ownership to the Park District. So those are the 3 lots. As I mentioned, the intergovernmental cooperation agreement that's attached as part of the ordinance that you're asked to consider tonight contemplates a number of things. I'll go through real quickly what some of the highlights of that plan are. We worked extensively with the district over the last couple of months to finalize that plan. And put together what we believe are some of the most important factors. I'm going to go through that plan first. So the first thing that the agreement does is repeal an ordinance. So I mentioned earlier that there was a multiple family development on the northwest corner of the property that was approved as a planned development for multiple family projects. So we need to repeal that ordinance, and the ordinance that's attached actually accomplishes that fact. It also creates that 3-lot subdivision that I talked about and the vacation of the right-of-way. And it divides it into the 3 lots that I described. A detailed list of the approved plans are also included in the agreement. So the thought is that we're approving a very specific plan with specific improvements, and that's outlined as part of the agreement. The district asked to include language in the intergovernmental agreement that they intend to later petition the city for approval of a rezoning to PDI, which would be subject to a public hearing and review by the Planning and Zoning Commission in consideration of an amendment by the City Council. It's just their notice that that's something that they may want to pursue, and it doesn't bind the city to accept or approve the anticipated rezoning request. The agreement also provides that the district shall comply with building codes that were in place when they applied for the permit last year. So if you'll recall, we recently updated our building codes, so they would be coming in under the city's older building code requirements since they submitted their application at that time. Standard building fees will not be charged for this permit, but we will be asking the district to reimburse the city for any of our out-of-pocket expenses. So the engineers and the building code professionals that are working on this project and doing the inspections, the city will pay for, and then the district will reimburse us for our direct costs for those fees. Similarly, we won't be asking the district to provide any security. So normally we accept a letter of credit for developers that are doing work in the right-of-way, so that if something isn't completed or happens that it's not completed to code, we would be able to draw on that letter of credit. But as another governmental entity, we would expect them to be able to provide that without having to post a surety in that case. Again, the district is electing not to construct any enclosures over the tanks. Very early in the process, we talked about including that requirement, but they were convincing in their argument to us that they've been able to be responsible and handle the odors in a responsible manner. So the agreement provides the opportunity for them to continue that, but then also includes provisions that would allow them to retrofit if we need to get to that point in the future. I do want to mention that the Planning and Zoning Commission did look at this at 2 separate meetings in March, and we did have members of the public that showed up and provided testimony on this case. That testimony is outlined in detail in your report. I won't go through it specifically, but if anybody has any questions about that testimony, I'm happy to bring that up or discuss further what some of those comments resulted in. Again, you have before you an ordinance. The ordinance accomplishes all the things that we mentioned, the rezoning, the plat approval. It approves the agreement that's also attached and very lengthy with a lot of plans attached to it. I do want to mention that we have in the audience with us tonight members from the district. Mark Eddington is available and can answer any question, as well as their legal counsel, Keith Foster. I'm sure can answer any legal questions that you might have. Happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Prior to discussion by the city council, I believe no one has registered. We do have one registered person from the audience who would like to, from the public, who would like to speak to this matter. Steve Capitan.
Forgot my glasses in my seat. Hopefully I'll be able to read my own chicken scratch. Steve Capitan, 3rd Ward. I spoke at the public hearing of the Plan Commission in March and addressed 2 issues, odor and access for the former bank building on Sycamore Road. I appreciate that the district and the staff are addressing this in the agreement. And by the way, I also live across the street from this location as well. So I do appreciate that they've addressed that issue. The access to the former bank building, though, is still of a concern to me. The property owners at one time, some years ago when I was on the city council, had requested the right to purchase a house next to the property so they could access Hollister, because I live over there, and when the bank was open, there were a lot of accidents coming out of that property. They were denied at that time. The property's been vacant for a couple of years, and I think that lack of access to that stoplight probably devalues the property as well. The city has required similar access in commercial zones, commercial development, such as the Advance Auto Parts location across from Walmart entrance and the Elwood Steakhouse, so that those different developments access each other's parking lots so that they can reach that stoplight and not have to exit onto Sycamore Road from the driveway. I understand, in having read the district's request for a waiver of second reading, and I understand the circumstances. I am not trying to suggest, I'm not suggesting that the council delay the auction this evening. But what I would request, and I appreciate having this picture of this on the screen, that if approved, I don't know whether this would be required in an amendment or some kind of understanding with the district, that since they are not going to be building the administration building immediately, that such an access adjustment of their property would only require adjusting the administration building, the public parking lot, and the staff parking lot in terms of its location on that property. And what I would request is that the council have an understanding with the district that if that would be requested, if it is feasible, that the city determines it's feasible, that they would agree to adjust those parts of the property. So it's bounded on the north side of the Hollister access for the new road, the new Hollister, and the east side of the access road, the northeast southwest access road. So in that zone. And so that's what I'm requesting that the council do. Since they are requesting a waiver of second reading, if they have that understanding with the district, then that allows some flexibility for that to occur without adjusting any of their projects or any of their facilities, just the administration building and parking lots. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Any other folks from the audience? If not, discussion on this motion? Ms. Noriko.
I have a question. Joellen, as I recall in reading the material, there were a number of citations from the engineer who reviewed the plans, for example, relating to fencing and some other issues. And I can't recall if all of those have been addressed and then incorporated into the final agreement.
They have. I
Okay.
think we're happy with the way the
Okay.
final agreement. I know we went back and forth on fencing, for example. At first, we asked them to move it closer to the property line, and then there was an issue of maintenance if there was two fences, so we asked them to separate it. So the way the agreements and the plans are written now is a way that's acceptable to us. We have little tweak kinds of changes that are going to be required. For example, they need to show us a detail of the ornamental fence. We now know where that's going to be placed in the public view. So we've gone through a lot of the details and either have it on the plans or have some minor changes requested as part of the plans that we will be going through a final plan review and approval at the staff
very
level.
good. I just got lost going back and forth between
I
them.
understand.
Yeah, thank you.
Mr. Faber.
So looking at the photo that's up there, the little red house that's on the corner of Hollister and Sycamore Road, that was during one of the earlier meetings. I think either the owner or the resident at that location had said they were interested in talking to the district. Did that, according to these plans, it does not look like an agreement had been struck.
The current plans do not make a change that would affect that property, but I don't know if there was any further conversation between the district and that owner. Would you like the district to address that question?
Yeah, I mean, it sounded like he was agreeable to sell the piece of property, and I think it would clean up that intersection.
Hi, I'm Mark Eddington with the Director of Kishwaukee Water Reclamation District. Yes, the owner of that property, I think it's 1221 Sycamore Road, did come in and discuss it with at our last Board of Trustees meeting. And, there was a debate on whether, it devalued his property or actually would it make his property more valuable, and now that he wasn't kind of linked to residential properties. And ultimately, if Sycamore Road decides it's going to develop to be commercial, that might actually be a benefit. But we did kind of leave it that, the owner was gonna kind of mull that over and then come back if he was still interested. I think the district would consider purchasing that property, but that has yet to be determined at this point.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Now, we have two motions. This first one will be the passage on the first reading if the council does indeed pass it, and then we will move to the waiver of the second reading on a new vote. It's been moved and seconded that we pass on the first reading of ordinance 2017-027. Roll call, please.
Fagan?
Yes.
Noriko?
Yes.
Verbic?
Yes.
Favor?
Yes.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Fanouken?
Yes.
Markwart?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
8 yes.
I would now...
Mr. Mayor, excuse me.
Excuse me.
I'm sorry, could I ask the attorney to confirm what the ordinance number is on this project? You referenced, Mr. Mayor, 027.
That's what I have in front of me.
Okay. The staff report provides 074. I'm not sure what's on the agenda.
The staff report indicates that it's amending.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's rescinding ordinance 2006-074.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I'd entertain a motion to waive second reading and pass this. Moved by Mr. Fanouken.
Second?
Second by Mr. Favor. Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Noriko?
Yes.
Verbic?
Yes.
Favor?
Yes.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Fanouken?
Yes.
Markwart?
Yes.
Fagan?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
8 yes.
Okay. Both
Thank
of
you.
those have been passed. It's going to be a $46 million project. We worked hard to get this intergovernmental agreement passed between the...
On behalf of the district, we appreciate it. We're going to have some of the cleanest water in Northern Illinois discharged from our plant. We're very proud of that. And we're proud that we're going to turn sewage into electricity. So we'll all benefit from cost savings and all that. So we
Okay.
appreciate everything from the city.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Steve, your public remarks are duly noted. Your public remarks are duly noted. Okay. Dan, do you have a comment on this particular? No, you just got to the podium too quickly. Okay, very good. We move on to our second item this evening. Number 2, ordinance 2017-028, authorizing a zoning map amendment from the MFR2 Multiple Family Residential District to the PDR Planned Development Residential District to allow for the establishment of a fraternity at 1114 Blackhawk Road LLC. Initially, first reading. Dan?
Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Just a minute, we need a motion first.
So moved.
Okay.
Second.
So moved by Mr. Verbic, second by Mr. Jacobson. Okay, Dan?
Thank you. It is indicated at first reading the applicant would like to move forward on the project, and staff has been working with the applicant on the development agreement with the PDR and finalizing that. The final draft is not in your packet, but we're comfortable with waiving the second reading, and Attorney Fritos will go over the changes at the end of the presentation regarding the changes in the agreement. But
Okay.
we're set to meet later this week with the applicant. So I'll go over the project. Now, the applicant Blackhawk Road LLC's petition to rezone the property 1114 Blackhawk to the Planned Development Residential District from the multifamily district. They'd like to reestablish a fraternity. It's a Sigma Nu fraternity, and they're recognized by the Interfraternity Council at NIU. The property, of course, will be used for residents, meeting rooms, dining area, and study space. The existing building is two-story, has a basement. It's just over 12,500 square feet. There's 29 bedrooms in the building, and the applicant's proposing a total of 45 occupants. It's been vacant for a couple years. The members of the fraternity are currently renting a location in an apartment complex nearby the site. The rooming house license for the city there's really no density requirement in the UDO regarding this, but the rooming house license regulations the city has dictates the amount of floor area needed based on the number of occupants, and they well exceed that. City records indicate the building was licensed for as many as 51 to 61 occupants in 29 rooms from the period 1997 to 2004. The applicant's proposing a lot of improvements to the property, inside and out, over $340,000 worth of work to bring it up to code compliance with the ADA, current building code, the rooming house license. They'll sprinkle the building that will bring it up to the requirements of the state law, which goes into effect January 1st, 2019, that requires that. They're updating the other life safety measures, the security and surveillance systems, hot water heating system, room restorations, new lighting, and refurbishing the appearance of the buildings and also the grounds. The parking was a big issue on this. They initially brought in a request, a waiver to the UDO for the parking. The UDO requires one parking space per occupant, so 45 spaces were required. The original parking area, the current parking area, as you can see on the aerial there, they wanted this to remain that, which was accommodate about 21 parking spaces. We noted you need to increase that with the issue with a lot of on-street parking in the area, concerns with that. A lot of the other fraternities and sororities have some issues with parking, so we really emphasize the need to add more parking on the site, and the applicant responded. They initially increased it to 30, then up to 42 parking spaces, and they will also push the drive all the way to the north to Edgebrook Drive through the site, which will help a lot add more parking and access around the site. They do have some waivers to the UDO, as I mentioned. The minimum lot size for planned development requires UDO 2 acres. They're 0.7 acres. They do need the planned development to get the other waivers granted. I mentioned the number of parking spaces. They do have 42, 45 is needed. The staff and the commission were comfortable with the number provided. The applicant did request a waiver on that, provided background information regarding other fraternities and sororities on their parking accounts. They also provided ordinances from 3 other communities that have large universities, indicating that their ratios were less than we have in DeKalb. And they indicated also they're currently renting a facility nearby, and they have 22 designated parking spaces there. So the staff's satisfied with the 42 parking spaces. They also have some waivers regarding the parking setbacks in order to get enough parking on the site. The setbacks from the interior lot lines and the 2 streets are a little bit less than what required, but still adequate room for vegetation there. 2 street trees will have to be removed with the relocated driveway cuts, and they'll be adding additional trees on the site to make up for that. UDO also requires curb and gutter around the perimeter of the parking lot. They're asking for a waiver on that, which the city agreed to with the additional parking. They're only adding about a third more impervious surface to the site, so stormwater will run off on the property itself or down to the streets, and there's catch basins nearby on Kimberly and Edgebrook Drives. The development agreements in your packet, now let's go over some summary of those. The permitted and prohibited uses are listed. Again, 45 residents be limited, 29 bedrooms, no more than 2 occupants per bedroom. The occupants will be limited to students and for an NIU approved and accredited sorority or fraternity. The allowed for community facilities, meeting areas, of course, full service restaurant. I understand they'll have catering in terms of the food there, so that will be added to the agreement. The parking plan I went over, they'll have 42 parking spaces. They'll require permits for their people living there. They have a permit system that the fraternity will implement. Final plans, there's a kind of a preliminary plan that's part of your packet, but prior to recording of the ordinance, they'll be required to submit final plans that will include a photometric lighting plan, a final landscape plan, and also a plan showing the trash enclosure detail. Building improvements are laid out in terms of including the fire suppression system. They'll have to, each tenant will have a bedroom rented. It will be a written lease limited to persons with the valid student identification. Public safety was a big item here in general, and Attorney Frieders will go over the changes at the end of the current agreement, but basically we're concerned about the, which the applicant agreed to in terms of surveillance of the exterior of the property and common areas, which they've agreed to. We just have to work out the final language on that. The Planning and Zoning Commission conducted their hearing on April 26th. They recommended approval by a vote of 4-0. We had 3 members absent during that meeting. Nobody from the public spoke against the project. The proposed rezoning, the commission and staff felt this would be good for the area. It's reestablishing a fraternity that's been vacant for 2 years. It'll have a positive impact on the neighborhood, redevelopment and stability of the area, also positive impact on property taxes. So staff would recommend approval of the ordinance as prepared. The applicant did request a waiver of second reading. Their letter is in the packet. So we'd recommend approval of that. The commission had a unanimous vote. So per the policy, that's open for a waiver of second reading. Before we have Attorney Frieders go over the changes in the agreement, just note that Steven Wermirsky, he's the president of the Sigma Nu Alumni Association, is in the audience. He represents the applicant, presented at the commission meeting, and certainly will be able to answer any questions you may have. Attorney Frieders.
Thank you, Planner Olson.
Yes.
The primary change in the development agreement that we're looking at and working through with the property owner is reorienting the approach towards this type of housing, recognizing that it's fraternity housing. Many of the high or higher density residential development agreements the city has looked at over the past several years have been more traditional housing styles of apartments or deconversion of rooming houses from rooming house to apartments. In those circumstances, we've looked at having more public safety involvement in common areas of the building and hallways and gathering spaces and foyers. As we look at this property, initially the development agreement was contemplating that same kind of approach, but as we've talked with the petitioner and as we've really discussed the fashion in which the common areas are utilized in a Greek housing situation, in many circumstances are viewed as an extension of the individual rooms. The patrons, the residents are going from the rooms through common hallways to common bathrooms. And so there's a lower level of formality, there's a higher level of, a higher degree of a privacy interest in those areas. And so this is a circumstance where after reviewing it and after discussing the plans with the petitioners and understanding their very detailed plans for property management, we feel it's appropriate to take some of those provisions out, such that the city would not be accessing common interior areas of the property. The property owners, as Planner Olson indicated, they are certainly willing to work with the city on the placement of security cameras on the outside of the property, on maintaining a safe environment that's well lit, that's attractive, and we have had discussions back and forth on what some of the specific changes to the agreement would be. We're very confident that that language will be worked out over the next couple of days. They do have an aggressive timeline. They want the building to be available for occupancy when students come back this fall. They've already started pulling building permits and making a significant capital investment in the property, demonstrating their commitment to the project. And so we're working with them and trying to accommodate that deadline, and that is why this comes forward, even though we're working through those language changes. After further discussion over the past couple of days and at the end of last week, we are recommending a waiver of second reading. We would recommend that that be subject to changes to the development agreement that are acceptable to the mayor and staff, so that we can work through these final language issues and get this project moving forward expeditiously.
So Dean, your comments would play into our possible positive reaction to the staff recommendation on both the first reading and the waiver of second reading.
Yes, if the council is inclined to support the project, we do recommend a waiver of second reading, again, subject to amendments to the development agreement that are acceptable to the mayor and staff.
Okay. It's been moved and seconded that we approve the first reading. Are there any members of the audience who wish to speak to this? If not, any further discussion? With no call for further discussion, roll call, please.
Verbeck?
Yes.
Favor?
Yes.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Markwart,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Noriko,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion to waive second reading.
It's been moved by Mr. Jacobson that we waive second reading.
Second. I second the motion.
Second by Mr. Markwart.
For clarification, does that include waiver of second reading and passage,
Waiver,
subject to
approving
the
tonight.
negotiation of a amendment to
Okay.
the agreement acceptable to the mayor and staff?
Yes, sir.
You comfortable with that,
Yes, sir.
Mike? Yeah, okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? Yes, Mr. Burbick.
Thank you for your investment in DeKalb and an important step in restoring the glory of Greek Row.
Thank you. Any further discussion or comments? Roll call, please.
Favor,
Yes.
Jacobson,
Yes.
Fanouken,
Yes.
Markwart,
Yes.
Fagan,
Yes.
Noriko,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Smith,
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you. Our item number 3 under regular agenda items, Resolution 2017-070, authorizing the award of a bid to Builders Paving LLC for the 2017 street maintenance program in the amount of $990,450.09, with an estimated project cost of $1,238,594.63, and staff authority to spend up to the budgeted amount of $1,325,000.
So
I'd
moved.
ask for a motion on that.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Fanouken,
Second.
second by Mr. Markwart. I understand that we have a description of this, please.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Smith. This evening, I bring forth a resolution to authorize the award of a bid to Builders Paving LLC. We've already gone over the specifics of that, so I won't go over all that again. But on April 14th, staff received 2 bids. The lowest bid came in at $990,450.09, which is about $114,000 lower than the engineer's opinion of probable cost. The favorable pricing received from Builders Paving allows us to accommodate additional maintenance and stay within the total budgeted amount. As a result, we have 3 small changes to the original program. I'll start with Fund 50. Fund 50 is comprised of streets scheduled for patchwork outside of the TIF districts. As we visually inspected those streets, our consultant recommended not to patch Normal Road from Route 38 to about 3 blocks north. Its poor condition is beyond patchwork. Fortunately, the favorable pricing on materials provided us with a surplus of $109,000. Of that, we'd like to use $96,261.69 to resurface those blocks. The next change is within Fund 14. Fund 14 is being used to resurface streets in TIF District 2. The cost for the streets programmed in TIF District 2 is $347,118.94, which is $152,881.06 under budget. Those additional funds will be used to cover some over expenditures in Fund 13 TIF 1. As I previously stated, removing the remaining funds from Fund 14 TIF 2 will be used to cover a total of $135,963.40 in over expenditures in Fund 14. Of that $135,000, a total of $56,190 is considered a pass-through, as the Kishwaukee Water Reclamation District will reimburse us for those repairs. Those are repairs we're going to do to their manholes. That just makes sense to do because we'll be already doing work on those streets. So this way we don't have to go back and do any work on streets that have just recently been paved. With that said, I'll answer any questions.
Any questions? Yes, Mr. Favor.
I was just curious, well, a couple of questions, I guess. First one is, have we done or have we awarded business in in the past to Builders Paving at all?
Yes, they were the winners. They won the bid last year.
Okay.
Yes.
And see, now the other question slipped my mind, so I'll wait. Okay.
Well, if you think of that within the next 30 seconds.
will.
Any other further discussion on this resolution?
Yeah.
Okay.
I do.
Yes, Pat.
Is mileage tax money used on this?
Tim?
Motor fuel.
The motor fuel tax?
No. The money from the TIF District 1 will
Right.
cover streets, all streets within TIF District 1, and money from TIF District 2 will cover streets, will cover the streets within TIF District 2.
And Fund 50.
And-
Fund 50 is the local gas tax.
It's local, correct.
And we no longer have any local preference on bid anymore? Is that my understanding?
That's correct.
And when was that taken away? Do you remember?
Would have been approximately 2013 or 2014. So our purchasing manual indicates that if all other factors are equal, the city has a preference for local bidders. Our experience with the local bidder preference, so the local bidder preference as it used to be written indicated that if a local bidder was within 5% of the lowest bid, that they could match that low bid and take the contract. Our experience with that suggested that we had some companies who were opening a local office in form only to be able to say that they had a local office and they were thus a local bidder, even if they didn't have true local employees. So it was somewhat poorly defined. The other challenge we're having, going back to what then City Engineer Laskowski related at the time the ordinance was repealed, was we were having circumstances where other bidders were getting frustrated because the margin on large projects, a 5% margin is a significant amount of money. And they would be, tens of thousands of dollars lower than other bidders, but they would lose the contract on the low bid preference. And because of that, they simply stopped investing the money and preparing a bid package and responding on our bids. So we had a number of bids that he had talked about when that was repealed where the only bidder, for example, on paving projects, we had a number of projects where the only bidder was Curran because they had taken advantage of that local bid preference. In the time since that has gone away, the city's experience has been more positive in having a number of bids proposed, although we recognize it as a relatively thin margin between the different bids received here.
I remembered.
Mr. Faber.
So my question was going to be, we only received 2 bids, and last year we changed, part of changing our fiscal year was to allow us to bid these projects in the spring. What would you attribute the low number of bidders to? Is it the size of the project, or?
Well, according to our consultant, a lot of that has to do just with the pricing on material right now. That's what he let us know, is that basically that not just our project, a lot of projects within the area are getting really favorable pricing on material. So it's a mix of that.
No, but we only had two companies bid, and was there any reason why we didn't have additional companies bid, or?
I'd have to speak to the consultant. They have a lot more insight into exactly what that sort of market is doing. But based on what Attorney Frieder said, and in the past 2 years, the same ones, it is working in our favor because we are seeing competition. Here, although it is a small, but we are seeing it work in our favor. The 2 bidders, the first one was Curran Contracting, and the next one was Builders. And although small, $8,000, I think it was about $8,000 to $10,000 difference. So we do see that working. From competition is working. So it really comes down to, I believe, what eventually what you guys would like to see in terms of the local preference.
Okay, thanks.
If I could add,
yep.
Alderman, we would have liked to have had this bid out a little bit earlier. And next cycle, we intend to move that closer to the February-March timeframe for bidding. We were a couple of months off of where we think we'll get the best pricing, but we're moving in the right direction. So hopefully next year we'll have at least 3, maybe 4.
Great, thank you.
Any other discussion? I'd like to weigh in here if I may. You mentioned $8,000 pretty good chunk of money. But in the overall scheme of things, this was less than one-tenth of 1% or 1/100th different between the two bids. I totally understand. I totally agree as we pass this that we're doing the right thing. However, in that scenario, I would ask our fellow councilman to give strong consideration of a return to looking at local bidders as we go forward. Pat, I'm sure that's why you asked the question. And I'm not doing business for anybody, believe me. I am just stating something that I feel very strongly about, having been in business myself, and I know what that bid process is all about. So I'm fully comfortable with the decision as we move forward on this vote. But I'd certainly like my fellow councilman to at least consider a discussion at some point, whether that be a committee of the whole meeting or wherever, to look at this whole scenario. Any further discussion? Roll call.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Fanouken?
Yes.
Markwart?
Yes.
Fagan?
Yes.
Noriko?
Yes.
Verbic?
Yes.
Favor?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
8 yes.
Motion carried. Thank you very much. Unless some of my fellow council members would like to suggest we have any new or unfinished business, I don't believe we do. At this point of the evening, we have reports, communications. Alderman Jacobson.
No report.
Alderman Fanouken.
Actually, since our next council meeting will not occur until afterwards, I'd like to congratulate the DeKalb High School class of 2017 who will graduate from the Convocation Center on Saturday, June 3rd.
Thank you. Alderman Markwart.
No report.
Alderman Fagan.
No report.
Alderman Noriko.
Of course, I have a report. I have scheduled another Ward 5 meeting. It will be Sunday, June 4th from 1:30 to 3 at DeKalb Library. At this point, Mayor Smith has, agreed to attend also. In addition, I would like to add my comments to Alderman Fanouken's, thanking Finance Director Haley for her service, and on a personal note, thanking her for her patience with my budget and finance questions. She almost made budgeting seem fun. Almost. Again, thank you, and I hope she has the opportunity to relax a little before she jumps into more finance wars.
Alderman Verbic.
No report.
Alderman Favor.
No report.
I've been your mayor for 2 weeks. One of my frustrations I found is the inability, because of one of the sunshine laws, that's the Open Meetings Act, to have what I would call a meaningful discussion with a lot of my fellow aldermen. And maybe I'm going to find a way to do that and stay within the legal system. I also have a feeling that a lot happens in our city. A lot happens where the mayor is involved over a 2-week period between city council meetings. And I feel an obligation to mention some of those things as part of my communications. So, like Alderman Noriko, I may always have a report also. I'd like to report that since the last 2 weeks, I have met with a number of developers. Some pleased, some not so pleased, but moving forward, speaking with the mayor, speaking with our staff, and I appreciate all the input the staff has provided me. I said during the campaign that I would meet with the Board of Trustees at Northern Illinois University. I did that past week. And I simply let them know that the City of DeKalb stands ready to continue our partnership with the university, especially in light of the fact of some of the enrollment problems, et cetera, that Northern is experiencing. This past week, 4 newly electeds, Alderman Fagan, Alderman Verbic, City Clerk Herman, and myself spent about 3 hours at a Metro West meeting learning about those sunshine laws, learning a little bit more about the Open Meetings Act, learning a little bit more about FOIA. Wow, have I heard about FOIA this week. I want to thank some of our city residents as we talked about the new Freedom of Information portal that this city purchased in terms of software over the past 6 months. That portal, and I have a strong belief that it will, in fact, when fully operational, will enable folks who want freedom of information, or excuse me, want information, to get that in a seamless manner, and they will see that it really does work. But it is something in progress. And I told Anne Marie Gora this afternoon, at no time will I ever throw one of our city staff under the bus when talking with folks. Conversely, I will never purposely throw any of our citizens under the bus when I talk to our staff and our city council. But having said that, I'm urging all parties, Mark Charvat, Mac McIntyre, Lynn Fazekas, and others who may have strong feelings on this, thank you for bringing some of these items over the last week to our attention. And I commend our staff for trying to do the right thing. We, as your city council, want to do the right thing. And I pledge that I will certainly try to do that. A couple of other items: Memorial Day celebration next Monday, the 29th. There is a mayor's breakfast at 6:45 over at the Elks Club. Going to have a program, I think Steve Capitan mentioned, at 8:30 at the Clock, and then we're going to have a parade at 9 o'clock over to the Elwood House. I hope many of our city residents join in memorializing those who have sacrificed so much for us, for this country. And finally, former Mayor Bessie Chronopoulos sent a letter to the to the mayor, the consul, and the city clerk with a plaque, a couple of plaques for us newly electeds. And I'd like to read this, Bessie, if I may. And if I may not, you can shout that out. She says, "You are on your way to working towards leading our city, and the responsibility is awesome. I wish you the best and hope and pray that you will work towards the true transparency and best practice our community so desperately needs. A while back, I began a tradition of giving a special gift to newly elected officials in DeKalb. It's a quotation from Thomas Jefferson that was given to me many years ago, and it made quite an impression on me, as it clearly states the basics that should be part of every elected official's understanding of what public service is all about. When a man assumes a public trust, he should consider himself as public property." Now, some of you have already received this when you were elected, and I hope you still have it. We're not going to take a quiz, though. If not, everyone will be receiving a smaller version of the quotation. Pat, you want to hold yours up there? To carry around with you or to post on a bulletin board or the refrigerator. The newly elected officials are each receiving one which is framed and ready for you to use as you see fit. The mayor gets the big wall-sized one, and Bessie, I'm going to put that on my wall. Then she says, since I was in a good mood, I thought I'd get you some candy. So all of us have a Kit Kat. She says she's on a diet. She will not consume carbs, especially the dangerous sweet ones. And Bessie, I'm going to read your last paragraph. Please work hard on your job. There's much to be done. Include the public in the process as much as possible, as there are many good people who are willing to help our community. And she says, if I can do anything to help, just ask. And sometimes, Bessie, I don't even think we have to ask, right? Thank you for serving. And I hope that wasn't too long, but it really said something. It resonated with me, and I hope it resonates with our viewers and our audience at home. There's a new spirit in DeKalb. There's a new day in DeKalb. Get that spirit. Those conclude my remarks. We'll continue. Sue Herman?
Yes?
Any
Oh, okay.
report?
No report.
No report? Okay. Ruth Scott?
No report.
Attorney Frieders?
Just briefly, Mayor, as the council is aware, demolition activity has commenced at the Otto's building and at the adjacent properties there. We have had some inquiries from the public regarding the demolition and the remediation that is occurring there. As the council is aware, that building was identified as having environmental contamination issues. So as a component of the demolition under state law, they're required to have a state licensed environmental contractor go into the property and remediate the asbestos that was in it. The property was tested by a environmental assessment company that the city utilized going back roughly 2 years to when we executed the search warrant on the property. A further round of testing was done by a contractor hired by the building project manager. Remediation was completed at the site. All of the asbestos within the site was removed, and the environmental contamination, refrigerants, other concerns within the site that are regulated by state law. The city does have, I think it's a 61-page environmental assessment report of the building showing that remediation process that was completed. There have been some questions raised regarding the presence of mold at the site. From the Illinois Department of Public Health website, the Illinois Department of Public Health does not test for mold. Even if testing is done, no standards or guidelines exist to judge acceptable levels of mold, and generally IDPH does not recommend mold testing. They go on to go through their process and explain that there really isn't any scientifically accepted level for mold exposure, which is why they don't recommend testing. Illinois does not have laws that regulate mold exposure. However, when any demolition process is completed in the city, there is both a state notification to the Illinois Environmental Protection Agency and a local demolition permit. And we look at the best management practices for any kind of demolition. The best management practice is management and mitigation of any kind of mold or dust that may be at a site through extensive watering being applied while the demolition is in process. The contractor that's being utilized here is one of the most highly qualified contractors who has experience in managing this exact type of project. They were a contractor that the city actually obtained a quote from when we were looking at this process from a litigation perspective. Every applicable state, local, and federal law is being followed to the fullest extent of the law. We've enlisted the cooperation of every regulatory agency that has any involvement in this, and that process is going forward in an orderly and lawful fashion. And we'll continue to entertain any questions or concerns from the public.
Thank you. City Manager Gora.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I do have an item. I want to point out what has already been mentioned previously, but I want to go in a little bit more depth. I want to publicly thank our Finance Director, Kathy Haley, who is leaving us and going on to other endeavors after this week. And I want to highlight for the mayor, the council, and the community some of the accomplishments that Director Haley has undertaken and how this has benefited the community in under the last 3 years, just under a tad 3 years. So earlier in the council meeting, there was the GFOA award for the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, or the CAFR, which is short for the audit. Under Kathy's leadership, we've seen 3 of these awards. So that means she's worked on 3 audits. She's worked on more audits, but those are the 3 that have gone through this process up to this point. In addition, she has created a new document called the PAFR, which is the Popular Annual Financial Report, which is taking basically the CAFR and simplifying it and making it more easily to understand for the community. So as we talk about transparency, making sure that the public is aware of where the money is coming from, where the money is going. We have won PAFR awards for that. So not only have we created the document, but it was honored and recognized immediately. She also has created a budget, or we're starting to do a budget and brief document, so that will be another thing that you will see coming forward. But I want to take a second and talk about the budget. She took this document, restructured it, made it a much more transparent document, made it easier to understand as far as less transfers, where the money was coming from, where the money was going. Once again, have won budget awards for that. Before Kathy, we had never received recognition from the GFOA on our budget. Since then, we have. She's changed fiscal years, and that is no small endeavor for a finance department to take what was a July 1 fiscal year and change it to a January 1 fiscal year. That is a huge undertaking that has happened under her leadership. Some of the other significant items, we've had financial policies, which is putting really a sound financial foundation in place for us. Those were drafted, taken to the Finance Advisory Committee, where she worked hand in hand on many of these items. The purchasing manual. We did not have formal purchasing policies in place prior to Kathy's arrival. In addition to, when we talk about the budget, she has taken and put together a 5-year financial forecast, which we're now taking to the next step of working with the FAC on a 5-year financial plan. She has taken the finance department and added additional responsibilities without really any change in staff. So she has continued to accept additional responsibilities from other departments. She has mentored staff. So as we've seen transitions in the department, she has encouraged and challenged her staff to do more with less. She's helped the city focus on financial sustainability and stability. I know when I was hired, that was one of the key items, the key item that city council members and the mayor pointed out, is to make sure we focus on financial sustainability and financial stability, which wouldn't be able to be possible without Director Haley and her leadership. So in the time that she's been here, we've been able to grow our general fund balance probably in the vicinity of about 10%, which equates to roughly $2.5 million. So that doesn't happen without strong professional leadership in that position. So just on behalf of the staff, Kathy, thank you for your leadership and your service to the community.
Assistant City Manager Hoppenstedt.
Wow, Anne Marie, that summed it up very nicely for Kathy. And I just wanted to say, Kathy, it's been an honor and a privilege to work with you. You are truly one of the great finance directors, and I will always remember the hard work and dedication to the city. And remember, you promised that you would take our phone calls. So I look forward to reaching out and working with you, I'm sure, throughout our careers in other capacities.
Police Chief Lowry.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just a couple things. We have, in concert with our Information Technology Department, we put together a public safety announcement. We've entitled it Lock It or Lose It. It's a very short video. It's on our Facebook page at the police department. IT's Jeff Bertel was helping us get it onto the website. Its target audience is everyone who leaves their car unlocked. And in order to help us reduce some of the crimes out there regarding criminals who just take advantage of unlocked vehicles, we're emphasizing that video viewing to help deter that by people locking up their vehicles and their personal belongings. So take a few minutes to take a look at that. This Wednesday from 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. we'll be hosting Coffee with the Chief at the Police Department. Open forum discussion, anyone can come, and we just want to welcome the community to that. And lastly, thanks Kathy for everything.
Kathy?
I'm not going to be able to say a lot. I just want to say thank you. Thank you, Anne Marie. Thank you for hiring me 3 years ago and giving me this wonderful opportunity to have served this community over the past 3 years and to have worked with an amazing group of people on the executive team all the way down to, having a wonderful finance staff that, currently really runs that department. So none of what was said has been done in a bubble. It was all full collaboration with city council, city attorney, city staff, and I truly, truly appreciate it and have been honored to serve here for 3 years, so thank you.
Thank you. Fire Chief Hicks.
I too want to say thank you to Kathy Haley for her service to the community. She's been a great teacher to me over the last 3 years, so thank you.
Joellen Charlton.
Thank you. I just wanted to echo some of the things that Dean described on the permit for the construction for Cornerstone. We're excited to have that project underway and moving forward, and we will continue to monitor the progress of that project and ensure that it's being completed in compliance with its permits and moving forward everything that we expect out of that project. It is a construction project, though, and I want to remind everyone that one of our other endeavors at the staff level is to make sure that people have an outlet to call if something comes up that they need attention. Jason Mishnick on our staff is trying to keep the public and the merchants in the downtown area informed about important deadlines. Sometimes people don't hear those, so if anyone has questions about what's happening or needs to express any concerns, please call the Community Development Department and we'll do our best to address them. Also, Kathy, thank you so much. You have served DeKalb well. I'll miss you.
Public Works Director Haldeman.
Thank you, Mayor. I want to invite everyone out for our first meeting for the asset management plan for streets and fleets. We're going to have a meeting tomorrow night at the Police Department Community Room. Starts at 6:30. The scheduled program will be for an hour. There will be time afterwards to mill around and ask questions, but our scheduled time will be 1 hour. And then we'll do it again on Thursday night. So you have 2 nights to choose from. It'll be an interactive program in which we're asking residents to give us their input on certain ideas that we have, and then kind of an open forum for questions and answers. And I, too, would like to say thank you, Kathy. You were an immense help to me as I assumed my first role as a director, and I will forever be thankful for your support.
Human Resources Director Chris Randall.
Thank you. Kathy, I just want to let you know that you are leaving us, but you are leaving a positive legacy that will be cherished by not only the City of DeKalb employees and staff, but also all the residents. Thank you.
IT Director Thorson.
I would also like to echo my thanks to Kathy. When I came on board, she was a great help to get adjusted and understand the systems, and I can't thank you enough because I think it quite helped the learning curve of adjusting to my new role. So thank you, and thank you.
Thank you, everyone. I believe now, before we adjourn this regular meeting, I must ask for a motion to hold an executive session, and we will meet in executive session, and let me read that item. Approval to hold an executive session to discuss pending or imminent litigation as provided for in 5 ILCS 120-2C11. Do I have a motion?
I'll second.
Moved by Mr. Verbeek,
I'll second
seconded by Mr. Fagan, that we hold an executive session. Do we need a roll call on that?
Yes,
Roll
please.
call, please.
Fanouken? Yes.
Marquardt?
Yes.
Fagan?
Yes.
Noriko?
Yes.
Verbic?
Yes.
Favor?
Yes.
Jacobson?
Yes.
Smith?
Yes.
8 yes.
I now entertain a motion to adjourn our regular meeting.
Nope.
Nope,
Not yet.
nope, nope.
Nope.
Do that after executive.
Oh, we do that after executive. Thank you, my fellow city councilman, for keeping me straight. Okay, we are now adjourned. We'll go into executive session. I screwed up the end.
It's okay. As long as we're making good time.